commercial off-the-shelf software. Why build something from scratch if I could just license it from this company that makes something pretty cool? And it might be a darn good idea. It saves cost, schedule, time, and it's probably, and if as long as it works, right, why not? GOTS. There are pieces of stuff that we take that only we have access to in the government. So maybe certain firewalls or certain IDSs or something like that, intrusion detection systems that we may want to use, which is our own. It's not really publicly known. It's obscured then, so maybe we have an edge there. And again, free and open source. Nobody writes code or builds systems without borrowing, and stealing from other places. An interesting side note, though, is I read a neat report about software reuse. This is not software reuse, right? This is someone purposely built a library to do JPEG compression with wavelet JPEG 2000 or something. And there's like 3 places on the internet that have that available. Yeah, that's a library. It was meant to do JPEG compression and decompression. There might be another piece of code, which is a whole application, which has pieces on that I'd love to have. But it turns out no one really does software reuse. They don't steal code from each other because it's more work to craft someone else's code into your needs than it is just to write it from scratch yourself. But the libraries are what I'm talking about, whole cloth libraries that do an atomic function that you really want to leverage. And I know this sounds odd, but these have a provenance. So that program, Joe Judge worked on, and Bob Martin, and these people, and that's the core development set. And for every change they made, they check it in. It's over Subversion or CVS or something like that, so it's all attributed. We use authentication, so at least we know the people that are checking in code because it's our little code project. We don't want people checking in random dumb changes. We're not Wikipedia. But that's not true all the time. And sometimes we do use code where maybe it comes from unvetted creators. That makes me nervous. And our current processes do allow that accidents could happen. Like I showed you the picture before in acquisition, there's a large surface area that's exposed. All right. So I'll tell you the folks we work with, how they think of it. They think this is important. The folks I work with, they get it. And they understand. And they do understand that there are motivators behind some of these folks. Any of the stuff any of the stuff that I share with you about these folks is public knowledge. You can Google for these things, and I usually put the source at the bottom if you want to Google for it. There are neat and interesting things if you care about this sort of software threats and kind of what folks are doing about it. And I'll just take my summary for today, and you can pursue it on your own. So, National Security System, NSS weapons. We have neat things, and again, you can Google for this. I'm not oversharing. Everything's on a network these days, and most of the time the network is starting more and more to become IP. We still have odd, goofy networks that you probably don't have access to, and they go over radios, and they're all very strange, and they're synchronous networks with little time slots and odd things. And the kinds of things you see in the normal world, you see in our space. Vulnerabilities, and of course, being network connected. Systems that are network connected means remotely you can poke and prod at them and test them and manipulate them. There are some interesting quotes that went with this one. There was a public slide presentation. There's a 554th wing gave about software assurance. 554th does, for the Air Force, lockdown desktops and software assurance, and they provide tools, and they really get this thing. And their presentation, you can go for it, it was Major Weber. They said, what if? What if I can modify the readiness of an Air Force unit? Ready, not ready, deployed, not deployed, busy? What if I can change? Air tasking orders is, if you think of a concert, any Air Force mission is a concert with lots of moving pieces. And way ahead of time, they coordinate what the music looks like. The tempo, the beat, the rhythm, and when's everyone doing something. Think about it. I mean, we have planes that'll go 20 miles and run out of gas because they're burning real hard. So 20 miles, I'll have a tanker up and ready, then they can refuel and come back. And you have all these moving pieces, and there might be thousands of these actors playing around in the big theater. And what if someone can alter the pieces of that? That would be bad. What about financial information? Just modify, if you can break into the system that deals with, maybe paying our airmen and modify their financial information. A guy worrying about his finance because he didn't get paid for 2 months in a row is probably not focused on his job. What if I could change the status of the munitions? Oh, that one's already shot. Don't worry, you're out of ammo now. That'd be perfect. Or in my space, more on the acquisition side, what if we put out acquisition documents? You can go to any website. This is public knowledge. Here are the things we're asking for an RFP, and the defense contractors post back. It's a very public process, very transparent. Here's what we're asking you to build. And anything that's really secret, they move to another place. But for the unclassed stuff, here's what we want to build. Here's what kind of airplane. Here's what we want it to do. And we solicit your proposals. And what if someone changed that? Changed it after. Changed it before. So data integrity, all these things, these guys get, and they get what it could be. Now, I keep talking about software development, but also notice I keep talking about things that are not software, which are really supply chain things. But when I think about software development, I'm like you. I'm used to writing code. The actual maybe deployment of it, I'm done. Here you go. To places that actually move lots of pieces of code and they update and upgrade infrastructure. Think about Microsoft updates being pushed out. That process better be secure in and of itself. Or you can have the best, most secure piece of software, but if it's not tamper-proof when you're delivering it and someone accidentally mucks with it or on purpose mucks with it in delivery, you've got a problem. So you think about the kind of effort they had to do to secure that. This stuff could kill us if we get it wrong. If you run a piece of software on a wildly insecure system, hey, everybody, here's the root password, just log right in. And we'll just share that account so we won't know who did it. Then that's a problem, because no matter how good my software is, if you can modify its configuration or modify its variables in memory or modify the binary, then I don't have much of a chance. So I worry about all these pieces as well as sustainment, because once we're done, it's not fire and forget. We put things out to the field to do a purpose. And of course, we deploy today on Windows XP Service Pack 3, but that thing might be in the field 10 years. What's the upgrade path? How do we maintain currency? Or if a new CVE came out for that one application that you integrated in, what are you going to do about it? You need to make sure you have that as part of your planning when you're building your thing. There's a life to these things. There's a life cycle to these things. So there we go. When you put these things and make them clear to people, they start thinking differently than when they make design choices for software, how they develop. Because what you make early on, what you think about, impacts how you might have to take care of it. So those are the pieces that worry us. We've got a lot of moving pieces, right? We worry very much about the deployment piece. We worry much about sustainment. We worry about building. We have worries all over, 360 degrees. But the good thing, I'll say good things now, not threatening, scary things. Good things are, what to do about software assurance is not rocket science right now. We still have things to solve that are tough, but there are some things to do. Even at the highest level, if you can do a repeated set of systematic activities to make sure you increase the trustworthiness, the reliability, the resilience, a predictable execution, the ability. Now, depending on what organization, right? If you read any NASA document, they worry about safety, and safety is their trigger for software assurance, because they worry very much about a rocket doing the right thing and not publicly, visibly blowing up and hurting people. And that's a driver for them. And in other places, you'll find there's a different motivator. And often in security, you hear people talk about confidentiality, integrity, availability. Well, in some places, one of them is more important than the other. Doesn't mean the other ones are unimportant. But if you worked at a place like financial services, my example from before, integrity is real important. When I write down that person has, or I compute somehow that person has $5,123,000 in their account, that number better not change. It better not get bigger or smaller, because that's a bad thing. I have an SEC worried about me, and I have people that would complain if the money disappears, and I have people surprised if the money increased unexpectedly. So they do care about disclosure, but it's a quick race, and integrity might be slightly more important in some cases. Well, I work in a place where maybe confidentiality is more important right now. What we have and what we know, how something's built, is much more of a threat or a concern than maybe numbers in a bank account or something like that. So you'll see from different organizations that the thrust is differently. The folks, I guess the first one's the National Security Systems. The Committee on National Security Systems is a good one. That's why I sort of made it bigger. But you'll see a theme here. So I keep talking about software assurance. but let me tell you how I see it.